It is just past 3, and we are going to finish what we started earlier, and we are going to do the last bit of ranking of these donuts. This side is going to be Tim Hortons. Notice the red on this side. Most of it is behind me. This side is Dunkin' Donuts. Notice the orange and purple. So we got the Dunkin' and the Tim's coffee. We're going to get this done real quick. Let's wrap it up. I'm going to open with let's do the vanilla sprinkles. All right. Now we have a tale of sitting donuts. So we have the vanilla sprinkles. Here's your Dunkin'. Here's your Tim Hortons. One looks better by like a significant amount. The freshness is past, but it's still pretty nice. Now the Tim Hortons. There's definitely sprinkles. I personally think there's too many sprinkles, to be honest. It's just like chewing tiny little pieces of chalk, right? I honestly think this was a lot closer. I thought this round would go down different. I think I'm gonna give that one to Dunkin' Donuts. Tim Hortons was basically just there. It was just like screaming sprinkles, you know. The Dunkin' Donuts, there were sprinkles, but like they weren't so in your face where it tasted where it was like chewing chalk. The vanilla was more of a flavored vanilla. I don't know. I barely tasted like vanilla flavor out of the Tim Hortons. And both donuts obviously have lost that sweet freshness they had earlier today. So they were about the same level of donut quality. But yeah, really it was all the vanilla frosting. Just carried more flavor for the Dunkin' Donuts. So I would give that one a Dunkin'. Let's do cruller. Now, we have French cruller, the French cruller from Dunkin'. And this one is a honey cruller from Tim's. So I'm not sure what the big difference between honey and French is. I'm assuming they're going to be pretty similar. Let's see. I don't know, it seems like, I know as they get kind of warmed up, if you would warm these in the microwave, the dough kind of gets like an eggy texture. I'm not exactly sure why, but this one kind of has that eggy texture. It does taste good though. Now Dunkin's probably is not going to have that eggy texture. I only seem to taste that if I warm it up in the microwave. Yeah, this one does not have it. I think the Dunkin' one again kind of tastes a little bit like funnel cake again. I believe that's fryer. That's probably just the fryer that they get fried in. I'm going to assume. That one's a tough call also. I'm trying to think of really, they were both in the same ballpark. I don't mind the eggy texture, but I think I'm going to give it to Dunkin' just because that funnel cake essence is kind of cool. I kind of enjoy that, and that's really the only reason. All right, now I'm not exactly sure why this Boston cream, the icing melted everywhere, but it's a bit unfortunate. The Dunkin' topping did not melt. The Tim Hortons chocolate icing did melt at some point in the car. Don't know why, don't know how, don't know why. It must be the way that these icings are made, I'm guessing. There's that flavor again. That chocolate. Whatever they use in their chocolate. I have not gotten the Boston yet. There we go. I do enjoy their cream. I really like the way their cream tastes. The cream tastes nice, but yeah, whatever their chocolate is it just does not, like I said, it's not like a bad flavor. It's just an awkward flavor, just like Hershey's. Hershey's has like a very similar, just like, it's not bad, but it's just like an awkward flavor that is unique to that chocolate. Okay. Yeah, Dunkin' Boston Cream does taste more like, I want to say a cheaper Boston cream. I guess it's Bavarian cream, but the cream doesn't taste as pleasant. But their chocolate doesn't have that awkward flavor. So really it was a tie. I think that both of them had their pros and cons. I'm going to give the win to Tim Hortons because the Bavarian cream in the middle was such a next level delightful, like, that's a pretty good standard for like chain donuts to have for Bavarian cream. Like, it was good. The donuts Bavarian cream just is not, it tastes cheaper. So Tim Hortons is going to get that because the Boston cream was better. All right, and we're down to my favorite donut, the vanilla cream. The Dunkin' vanilla cream, the Tim Hortons vanilla cream. Now, we know it has the chocolate icing, so this one's going to have some pretty good cream in it. I think it's lighter and fluffier. I think it's much closer to the gross, it's too sweet line. It definitely feels like it. Like, it feels like a whipped icing, but it doesn't have that relaxed, like, a lot of whipped icing on cake really spreads that sweetness out really nicely. But this one just concentrates the sweetness back into a overwhelming sweetness. I mean, obviously, that type of sweetness is something that I enjoy sometimes, but this one's even getting pretty close to that line. All right. And now the Dunkin' vanilla cream. Hmm. Hmm. Well, it's been quite a bit of time since we've actually eaten the rest of the meal. But I'm going to eat this jelly donut because this was the odd donut out, because Dunkin's apple fritters do not count as donuts. You have to get them separately. So this was what I got instead of the apple fritter, since at Tim's you can get an apple fritter as the donut. Now, I'm just going to enjoy the jelly and think about who won. I like jelly donuts, but I've just had so much good jelly at this point that the jelly just doesn't hold up anymore. All right. Well, the judgment is in. I feel like it's kind of a pretty good landslide here. I feel like each individual battle was definitely closer between Tim Hortons and Dunkin. For a lot of situations, it was a very close matchup in a lot of ways. But in the end, I'm pretty sure most of the items would have went to Dunkin. Between the sausage was so much more flavorful. I mean, we're basically disregarding the bread differences, especially since, there was waiting periods and stuff. As far as the English muffin, the breads had their up and down, but the flavors of the meats it was just no contest. Dunkin had it. I did appreciate the bacon flavor, but I wouldn't get bacon anyway in either situation. So that really doesn't matter. The Dunkin' bagel was super hard to chew, but it was so much more flavorful with the cream cheese. The muffins were in this similar category. I do think that the Tim Hortons muffin was softer and fluffier, but it also, again, lacked blueberry flavor, whereas the Dunkin' Donuts blueberry was all throughout it, regardless of whether or not I would have picked that flavor. On a normal day, anyway. I'm trying to think of what else I got. Even the hash browns, I don't normally care for Dunkin' hash browns because they get soggy so quick. They're never crispy, but because both of them were waiting, neither of them were crispy. So it came down to just flavor. And that seasoning that Dunkin uses made the not great hash browns good enough. And then most of the donuts just went to Dunkin', especially anything with chocolate. The Tim's chocolate just tastes odd. They just taste odd. And I wouldn't be surprised if they use Hershey's to make their chocolate. But it was a pretty one-sided match, and Dunkin' is just the winner. There's no question about it. Dunkin' is definitely the place I would stop, not only because of the flavors, but the only Tim Hortons that is actually a Tim Hortons in my state that I found out that I had to go to, they're open Monday through Friday, and they're open from 6 to 3. All the other Tim Hortons around that would have been further away than that one are not even Tim Hortons. And I'm glad that I didn't decide to try to go to one of those because their hours were longer. Their hours are longer because those are gas station quick stops, and all it is a donut case. That's all it is. It's not a Tim Hortons. It's just a donut case that says Tim Hortons on top. So they wouldn't have counted. But I took the day off so that I could do this for one of the requests, and I'm glad I did it, but I'm not going back to Tim Hortons. There is no point in rearranging my schedule. There's no point in taking the trip out there. If I would rather go to Dunkin' Donuts, there is plenty of those. So, sorry, Tim Hortons, but I think you're permanently out. I considered, because there was at least another dozen donuts I could have gotten, or close to it anyway. And clearly that wouldn't have been worth it. Actually, most of the other ones are it was like plain sugar, or old-fashioned sugar, old-fashioned powdered sugar. They were a bunch of more plain-styled donuts, so maybe they wouldn't have been so bad. I do know their sour cream donuts did have a nice way about them. So maybe the donuts that I didn't get would have helped their scores a little bit, but direct comparison donuts did not do it. But you live and you learn. Maybe if I swing by Tim Hortons, I'll try some of those other donuts, but it's definitely not on the priority list anymore. All right. I'm going to get some work done and get myself prepared and ready, because in about 6 hours, I'm probably going to start again. Maybe a little bit more than 6 hours, but I'm all set up. I'm ready to go for, well, I guess technically it's going to be meal number 2, but I don't know what this is. Meal number 1.5. Anywho, I will see you at the next stop. What in the world will I eat next? You guys never even get to see my other hats. These hats are the worst hats to have backwards because they look so dumb. But they have cool designs on them, and no one ever gets to see them.